Hello, everyone, and welcome to an all-new Deep Cuts Live with Antoine Reed. Today, I have a returning guest. So usually I'm saying someone completely new, but this is someone that if you've been watching Deep Cuts since the beginning, you may have recognized our guest. Last episode was well received, had a lot of people tuning in, so hoping for the same for this kind of follow-up. So welcome back, Robin.
Thank you for having me. It's been a minute, I've seen you rise and change and do all kinds of fun things. So it's good to see the growth. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I wouldn't say that they're all fun, but it's definitely been a while. Before we went live, we were kind of comparing notes. So it's been 4 years. So, there's that song that says what a difference a day makes or whatever. So
right.
What a difference 4 years makes.
4 years makes. Exactly.
We have been through many days and many changes in those days. So welcome back. Thank you for wanting to go through Deep Cuts once again. So at the beginning of Deep Cuts now, I know we kind of changed up the format a little bit since you've been on. So now we kind of open with the icebreaker. So for you, your icebreaker question is, what's a book, movie, or song that completely shifted your perspective on something?
I guess it would be Sade. If people would just give me what I wanted, I wouldn't have to ask for more.
Definitely appropriate.
I don't think that's the title of the song, but that's the line in the song I love so much.
Is that a song that you play?
You said what?
Is that a song that you play often?
I love Sade. I like, kind of easygoing music, kind of thoughtful music. People who, I like Michael Franks. I love people who really put, more songwriters. That's really more the music that's really thoughtful. So when I make pokers, I listen to that. I listen to a lot of Afro beats. So stuff that inspires me to be creative. So that's really what I like.
Okay. I'm one of those people who feels like when you're doing something creative, you should be listening to something. Like when I took art class in high school, that was one of the lessons that we learned. Like you should never try to create something in silence. You should always have something going on that influences the creative process. So I'm always listening to something. Music is usually a good choice, though.
Yeah, I like something that just takes you on a journey, highs and lows and stuff like that. So I just like thoughtful words and thoughtful, or even I like Jeffrey Archer, who's an amazing storyteller. So I love listening to his story. So just something that takes me on a journey.
Yeah, definitely. So now that we've kind of broken the ice a little bit, I want people to know what it is that you do, because we're used to having lots of like cigar makers and, people who work in factories but you work a different part of the industry. So tell people a little bit about what you do.
So what I do is I design and handcraft cigar pokers. Cigar pokers are used when you have a tight draw, like when you're smoking a cigar and you're working too hard. You're like, why am I, trying to work that hard? Or if you just want to hold it to not burn your lips, your hands. So I will show you one of my pokers. This is a poker. It has a gas mask. So, people think, wow, this is a poker. So I like to try to, do something that people don't expect. So this is one of my wholesale pokers. It's just a little different. You see a lot of pokers, but I try to do something different. Here is another one that's got a skull on it. So I try to do some different things that people may look at it and go, that's not what I thought a poker would look like. So the point, and it's got, an end where you can stick it inside the cigar and open up the airways or to hold your cigar. And so I started doing it in 2019, right before COVID. And I thought, boy, what a time to open up a business. But, in Atlanta, and I live in Atlanta, we had a period of time where, a lot of people were stuck in the house, and it just really increased a lot of the sales because people were smoking more than they ever were smoking. And I thought, oh, wow, what a time to start a business. But, Atlanta, and I'm sure a lot of other markets, smoked more than they ever smoked during COVID. So it was a great way to start my business because my sales were through the roof when I started.
I've found in the last couple of years, especially, and I don't know if maybe it is COVID that caused this, but there are a lot more cigars that need a little help in terms of like they get very tight. And I don't know, I don't remember that being the case before COVID as much, but it's like now, like, I mean, it's almost like you have to cut too much of the cigar and then, use some kind of poker to get the airflow going. So I don't know if you've encountered a lot more of that with, or
I find that there are tighter. I don't know when it happened, but I feel like my lips are working a little harder. I feel like they're working harder, and I'm like, And it's funny because, I hear people saying, "I wish I had a poker," and I'm like, "What?" I sit around, I'm like, "Wait a minute, what'd you just say?" So I didn't hear that before. I was somewhere when Octavia from, she does a lot of stuff. She goes, "I need a poker," and I was just like, "Oh my God," So it's just funny that people are saying that now, which before I didn't hear that. So it's a great problem to have because I'm like, you know what, I've got one for you. And I don't know what's causing that. I don't know if it's, global warming or, the humidor is off or what's happening. They've got very expensive humidors, so I'm not sure if that's, what's going on. But I do find that I'm working harder than I have in the past. I do find that.
Yeah, I think you definitely found a problem that could use a solution. And I don't see a lot of people in the poker, cigar poker market. That was a tongue twister, but I don't see a lot of people in that market. I do see some lighters sometimes, will have like include like a little
the punch
poker
at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see more when I started 6 years ago, I was the first cigar pokers to go to PCA. I was with Hiram and Solomon graciously allowed me to be at their booth. They had never had anybody had cigar pokers. And so I thank them for that. So now I see more people getting into cigar pokers. I think a lot of people are doing it as a hobby. I want to do cigar poker, selling a few to their friends. But it takes a lot of commitment because, I'm on a lot of the platforms. I'm on Amazon, I'm on Etsy, I'm eBay. I sell to retailers, sell to wholesalers. So when you're doing that level, it takes a lot more than you're just selling them to your friends who may just want to get a poker. So, but I welcome people to get into the business if that's something they have interest, if they have an artistic, if they're artistic, because I think it's different just to make pokers like everyone else does. It takes more to stand out from the crowd.
And where do you kind of draw inspiration from? Because I think it's like a very creative, what you've just showed, just a few examples you showed so far. They're very different. It's not like what you would expect from a cigar poker. So where do you kind of draw inspiration from?
My mom was all my girl cousins do something creative. All of them. My mom sews, I sew, I upholster. All of my girl cousins do something. So that's where it started. My mom made my clothes till, I was 10 years old. So that's where it started. When I first saw poker, it reminded me of the 1920s where the women's had, the long cigarette sticks and stuff like that. And I really saw kind of the big bulky pokers for women, and I liked the concept of them, but I just didn't like how bulky they were for me personally. And I wanted to do something very different. And so I got inspiration from the geisha, the women who were geishas, who had these beautiful hat pins in their hair. And so that's where I got inspiration from them. I've always just been creative, and because of my family, just because I'm a program manager, so you're always trying to put pieces together that don't necessarily belong together. I love fashion, and fashion doesn't always work the way that you think it should work. People who are very fashion forward try different things. And so I think it's just really kind of coming from there and trying to do something different. I think for me, a cigar poker, because I do a lot of custom pokers, is really giving people something that they didn't think they could even have. A lot of people are using them as statement pieces. I've done them for people who have breast cancer, people who are in different groups, different biker clubs. When you do wholesale, you're trying to sell to a lot of different people who are, coming into a cigar lounge. So you get every, gambit. I sell to Burn, I sell to Goodfellas, I sell to, Cigar Times in Puerto Rico and in various markets. So you're trying to figure out what is that common denominator that can sell to a lot of different locations. So it's really doing a lot of pokers. Over 6 years, I've done a lot of different pokers, and I just really try to every time, challenge myself to do something different and not stay in the same place I was, 6 years ago or 2 years ago, and just kind of reinvent myself every time.
Yeah, one of the questions I want to ask you, definitely as a follow-up, when we spoke 4 years ago, you were kind of getting the business going. You were, like you said, with Hiram and Solomon in the booth selling stuff. So how has your business changed in the last 4 years since we last spoke?
Well, my relationship with Hiram and Solomon was very pivotal in what I was doing. My dream at that point was just to get into PCA, just get in the door, because PCA to me was everything that I wanted. And so with them allowing me to be at their booth for, I think it was 2, maybe 3 years, and then becoming their brand ambassador, they allowed me to build relationships that I would have never had. So that helped. Before that, I was an ambassador for Atlanta Cigar Week at the time. It's now Atlanta Cultural Week. So every step that I've taken has really helped, with that. I won 2 awards, during that period of time. I'm, currently in the running for Charleston Smokeout, which would be my 3rd award. So I think it's everything that I have done over the last 6 years have really shaped where I'm going. I'm targeting now more wholesale accounts and distributor accounts, where before at that time it was more individuals. I want to sell a poker to you, versus now I want to sell a poker to more of a lounge, more of a distribution channel. So that's really where I've gone from that particular point.
And I know this is like a Shark Tank question, but you talked about the shift going from selling just to individuals, which I know you still do, to going to selling to bigger accounts. So like, how do you keep up with that demand?
I have some amazing people that work with me. So I know people think that I make every poker myself. I typically have a company. I say I need 10,000 pokers, they can handle that demand. And so that is very helpful. I do all the designs, but if I say I need 50 of those, they can make 50 of those. They just take my design and replicate what I'm trying to do. So that's very helpful. I use a lot of technology. Technology is very helpful, from Calendly, setting the appointments, to Linktree, having everything locked down so they can see, my portfolio, they can see everything that they need to see. So when I can use technology, I do, because I think it's just an easy way for you not to have to be everywhere. You can send them a link and they can have everything that they need. Building great relationships with people. People can refer business to you and you don't even have to be in the room. So if you have great connections, that's very helpful. Partnering with different organizations, whether they be, tied to a Sisters of the Leaf, partnering with different lounges that know that you're doing a great job. So it's a series of different things that I've built over the last 6 years. When I went down to Puerto Rico, I was down there with, Cynthia. I ended up, working with 4 or 5 different lounges, and that was very successful for me. So it's really around relationship building and really being authentic and saying what you're going to do and delivering on that promise. There's a lot of times in this industry where people say they're going to do things and they don't do them. And so for me, it's just important, and nobody's perfect because stuff happens. People tell you that your supplier may tell you you're going to have a Tuesday, and it's Tuesday, and you haven't heard from them, can't get them on the phone. That happens, but at least communicate with people and say, hey, listen, I'm not going to have this on this day. I don't know when I'm going to have it, because there's tariffs that are happening in China, and all these other kind of crazy things that we didn't know were going to be happening. But just trying to tell people what's going on, because they may be dealing with the same issues that they have going on. So it's not like you're the only one that's dealing with these problems. And so I just try to, my dad was in business, my mom had a business. I always wanted a business. That was like my dream, but I could never find anything I liked. All these businesses people had, when I was growing up, cigar pokers, that just was not, if somebody told me I was going to do cigar pokers, I would have told them like, what? But I always wanted a business, and I knew if I ever got one, I would do the best I could do. And this is the best I can do. It's for me. So
what kind of material are cigar pokers made out of? I don't even think we talked about that last time, but I think now.
Well, they can be made out of every possible thing. I do like this is, let me see if I can get they're made out of every possible thing. This is bone, this is stainless steel, this is European glass. It just can be made out of whatever you want it to be made out of, whatever the client can be made out, wants them to be made out of, whatever the look that you're trying to do. I don't buy anything from Michael's. I don't buy anything from any of the local bead stores. I source my stuff from all over the world. So it just, sometimes I'm really good and I'm like, man, I hit it. And sometimes I've had beads that I can't get rid of, that I thought this was such a good idea. And they're, still in there. And I'm like, man, Robbie, you did not make a good decision on that one. So it's a gut feeling to think, stuff that I really think is going to be good, it's not. And stuff that I think is not going to be good, people are loving it. I'm like, you like that? Wow. I just, I didn't know. So you don't know what people are going to love, and then you can't find it anymore. And they're like, oh, I really wish I had that. I'm like, man, they only had 3 of them. You got 1 of them and there's 2 left. So it's, as you do it more and more, you kind of get closer to it. But it's just, sometimes people love stuff and you're just like, you like that? I'm like, okay. So it's kind of a feeling, but you just hope you're right, especially because they have minimums that you have to buy, and I'm buying from all over the world, so that, you can't just buy 1 bead, they're like, no, you can buy this much. And so, I just hope I'm right. That's the best I can do. So
what would you say is like the split in your audience or your customer base between like men and women? Like, is this a product that both genders, sexes are interested in? Is it more one or the other?
I would say in the beginning it was 75 men, 25 women, because I targeted men initially. So what happened was, when I first started, I went to the Big Smoke in Vegas and took 4 pokers down there because I wanted to see, if I, was hitting on something or if I was losing my mind. So I talked to my brother and he was like, you are not going to sell these pokers to men. I don't know what you're thinking. Men are not going to buy pokers. This is a woman's game. I don't even want to hear about it. He's retired Navy. He's like, what are you out of your mind? And I was just like, oh my God. So I talked to this guy named Danny. He has a lounge in Pennsylvania. And he was like, Robin, men are the way to go. I was like, thank you. So I told these guys about what I wanted to do. I wanted to make these skull pokers. I had seen them in a tattoo shop in Vegas during PCA, during Big Smoke. And I told them what I was going to do. And they said, okay, I get it. I want to buy from you when you make them. So this guy called me on Instagram. DM me. And he said, you make Masonic pokers. My dad was a Mason. I said, sure. So I made one. He put it on Facebook and Instagram, and immediately every Mason in the world started calling me. So that's how I started doing men, because, Masons, of course, are men. And then the Eastern Star started calling. And so then the fraternities started calling. And so it was mainly more men. And then I said, well, if the men are calling, let me just focus on the men. So I didn't have women for a long time, because I started buying only men products, because I said, I don't have any women, so there's no reason to spend any money on them. And women, they want a lot of colors. They want light blue, dark blue, this and that. And I, I didn't have any money in the beginning. So I couldn't buy that many colors. And men want one color, and that's black. So I said, I can buy just black and blue. So that's really where I started. And now it's probably about 65-35. It's still primarily men. Because now I sell bracelets. I don't know if I was selling bracelets when I met you. A good friend of mine, Lyric, said, I want a bracelet to match my poker. And I said, nobody's going to want that. And now bracelets are probably half my business. So, so I buy, I sell a lot to men because if they buy a poker, they want a matching bracelet. So it's just been, men don't have as many options. If I find a man that's got a skinny wrist or a big wrist, he wants something custom because it's not a normal size, which is a size 8. So it just kind of morphed into really helping the men out, getting the right size, getting the right color beads. Sometimes their favorite bracelet is broken. I repair bracelets. So it just made sense. And then the women eventually came on board after that. So
that's interesting. So it's still kind of, I know the cigar industry is a lot of men, but I know it's gotten a lot more women have come into. I think they've always been there, but now this kind of out in the open, like it's better. Even from 4 years ago when we started speaking, like women are right there front and center in the industry, or
Definitely.
becoming more so now. So it's interesting to hear that different breakdown between your audience.
Well, I would say specifically for me, because you have to remember that the other people who are selling pokers are primarily women. So those other women are buying their pokers, where I sell both, but I feel like because men were accepting of me in the beginning, right? Where women wanted 4 colors of purple. They wanted lavender, the dark purple, light purple. And I didn't have the money to be buying those 4 colors of purple. I just didn't. When you start in business, you kind of start with what you got. So men wanted black. Or blue. So I was like, I have black and blue. So for me, it was just a matter of let's start small and figure out what we can do in this space versus trying to have 4 different colors of purple. And I get the women because, as you know, my favorite color is blue. So I love all kinds of blue, but I couldn't afford to have that many colors. And so I said, okay, let me just start with this. And so it just gravitated. And when the Masons bought my pokers, I just went with who was supporting me. So that's what I did. So now it's evening out. And, sometimes like if I'll do a Sister of Belief event, of course it's all women, right? And women are doing more because now I have more money to invest in different colors and I can do all kinds of rhinestones and all this other stuff now that the men have afforded me the ability to do that. But initially I didn't have, stuff to have crystals coming down and doing all this other stuff. And men don't want crystals. They just want, something that's, very streamlined and so that's kind of how it came. So
How have you changed your marketing of this product? Because again, 4 years since we spoke, even Instagram itself has changed a lot in how we used to use it and to promote things. They clamp down on certain kinds of content on anything Facebook, Meta, Instagram.
Facebook is killing us. Oh my God. Facebook is
Yes.
killing. Oh my goodness. You can't even,
Yes. So how have you adapted to keep ahead of all that? Because I know it's a challenge for a lot of businesses, especially in this cigar area.
Yeah. When Facebook changed their guidelines to you can't smoke, there's just so many no's. I can't even tell you how the no's on Facebook. I didn't know what was going on. Because I kept getting these notifications. Oh, Facebook. I'll just say it in the language that I use. They don't like this. Yours is not going to be shown to a whole bunch of people. I didn't know what was going on. Then I think it was PCA that sent out this communication. That was it you that said, "Hey, you
Like
can't
you're
do
not
this."
imagining it is happening.
Yeah, you can't do this because of this. Because we didn't know I didn't know what was going on. And so when they explained what was happening, if that was you that explained it, I was like, oh, okay, because I didn't know what was going on. So then I said, okay. So when I got the information from you about what was happening, then I had to stop and do things differently because when I'm like blowing smoke and doing all this exciting stuff that I've been doing for the last umpteen years. Now I can't do that. And, my pokers are used when you're blowing smoke. And I'm just like, what are you saying? So that was really an eye opener, because I've been blowing smoke. I've been smoking for 15 years and I've been blowing smoke on all the channels for 15 years. So thanks for the information, because I didn't know what was going on, but it has changed a lot, because when you've been doing, this is a habit. You know what I mean? This is a habit. So it was very hard, because sometimes I forget and I'm like, oh, dang, they got me. So, so it took a while before I got it, because you do good and then you're like, oh, darn, I messed up. So it was hard for me. Sometimes I have to just wait a minute before I post it and put it through that filter, because sometimes you're in a rush and you're like, oh, no, wait a minute. We can't do that. And Instagram is more lenient than Facebook. Instagram will let you do more things. And my Instagram is set up where it automatically goes to Facebook. And I had to stop that, because I can't do that anymore. I used to be able to just send it through, and I'm like, no, you got to look at everything. So it changed the way that I market, because now what I do is do them separate. Like, no, Instagram, you can do this, and Facebook, you got to wait a minute and figure out what you're going to do. So that was hard. And if you hadn't told when I say us, I mean the cigar community, I don't know that we would, because I thought something was wrong. I'm like, what is happening though? I've been doing this and now I can't do it. So it's difficult to stop doing something you've been doing. And it makes you feel like you're doing something wrong when you smoke. And it's something I've been doing for 15 years. So I don't think it's anything wrong. It just may be sending messages that they don't want to see go out. But, it's something that's part of who I am. So it's just having to stop and think and wait before you send stuff out, which before it would be like, send.
Right. I think too, it's like, sometimes it depends on, like, every couple of years, Meta changes how they approach policing their websites and their platforms. Like, they might crack down now, and then 4 years from now, it might not be a problem. So you never know. You almost have to kind of adapt, and it's all based on who's lobbying them, who's giving them pressure, the government at the time, what's the big focus. So it is hard to kind of manage, because you can learn everything you need to learn about Instagram, and then a year later is, half those things are completely different.
And I'm an Instagram person. I don't do Facebook as much. I've just gotten on Facebook. I mean, I've been on Facebook, but I'm saying I haven't really been on it. Like, Instagram was, when I went to the Big Smoke, somebody showed me Instagram, and that's all. I said, let me just learn one platform. I don't want to learn them both. So I wasn't a Facebook person. I mean, I'll just, copy it to the next one, but I don't really know what was going on, all the groups and stuff like that. I'm an Instagram person. So to know that I'm getting hit on a platform I don't really understand was a double whammy for me, because I don't really even do anything. I just hit send and it goes there. So I was just like, oh my God. But it is getting less difficult. I'll say that. Not easier, but less difficult. So, but I am getting more engagement, because what I'm doing is learning what they like. And when I get a post that does well, then I study what did I do well, and stuff that I don't even think did well. I'm like, you like that? Okay. What was it about that you liked? And that's what I try to replicate. What did they like about that? So that's what I'm learning.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely the route to go, like focusing on engagement rather than, some people focus on like vanity metrics, like how many people are following now. But especially if you're in the cigar world, you're not getting recommended, or your stuff isn't getting shown as, someone who's posting about gardening or their dogs or whatever, or their kids or whatever. So
Right.
It's like you have to kind of not worry as much about following, that follow count, and do like you're doing and look at engagement, because engagement, I mean, if you can engage 100 people to get them to look at your posts, then that's awesome, because there are some people who have thousands of followers and they can only get 20 people to look at their posts. So
yeah, and they were telling me that likes don't necessarily mean as much as how many people looked at your post, because not everybody's going to like it, but they may have looked at, like, if I have, let me just say 50 likes, but then I look up and I had 1,700 people look at the post. So they said, there's two things, there's several things that you're looking at. It's just not how many people liked it. It's really how many people saw it, I guess, is the way I look at it, as far as my limited understanding of how the algorithm that changes hourly. so, I don't know, but it's getting less difficult because I'm really watching the engagement and seeing what happens, and I'm getting better at it. So I see my post getting more engagement. So that's good. It's never going to be, I won't say never. My goal is not to have a million followers or anything like that. It's just that I'm putting out good content. So that's really all I can ask for.
Yeah, definitely. Well, for you, I know in the cigar world, cigar reps and manufacturers always say the goal for them is to get their products in the hands of people. And they can't really do that online, obviously. I mean, you can't taste a cigar through an Instagram post. It looks cool sometimes, and you might want to try it, but when they get people to actually try it, it goes a long way. So for you, when you're marketing and getting your pokers out there and your bracelets, do in-store events and in-person events like these festivals, do you see a bigger kind of explosion of excitement about your products and engagement, or do you see more online? Like, do more people come to you saying, like, we found you online, or do more people kind of buy from you after they've seen it in person?
A couple of things. I keep upgrading my camera. I have an iPhone. It's still a better camera with an Android. So my pictures are not the best. So when they see the poker in person, they're like, oh my God, it looks so amazing. And so that's one thing that I can't seem to fix. No matter how good my picture is, my pokers always look better in person. So that's one thing. What people are saying, when they see the name of the company, they're like, oh, I've heard of Blue Smoke. So it's the name recognition is there, getting there, or they'll yell out Blue Smoke, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm like, so that's kind of weird. Like when people say Blue Smoke, and because I'm Robin, first in my mind, and when I hear people yell out Blue Smoke, it's kind of like the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, that's me. Wait. So it's kind of weird, because people associate me with Blue Smoke sometimes before they do Robin. So that's kind of a little weird, but it's okay. So, it's a lot of different things, and it depends on where you are. If you're at a cigar lounge, they'll probably call you by the name of the product, because a lot of times, like, Goodfellas or Burn or whatever, they're used to making that association with you, with the product, because it's in that lounge. So they may take you there. If you've hosted events, they may call me Robin Blue because they're used to me introducing myself that way. So it depends on how I introduce myself to them that way. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely like that you see that distinguishing point between like taking a picture of your product and getting it into somebody's hands. Like somebody might go, oh, I didn't know it, it's like just the touching and sensory stuff sometimes is a big selling point that you can't get across in a press release or a
I
picture.
can't, and I've tried for 6 years. I mean, and I've had photographers take pictures of it. I don't care who takes the picture. Like I just sold to Norwich. They're in Chicago, and I did my best, and they go, these are just so much more unbelievably beautiful than they were, and I'm just like, oh my God. I was down there taking it. I did everything I can, and they're just so much more beautiful in person. It's just the detail that you just can't capture, and I've tried. I don't care what I do. And my brother's like, you take horrible pictures. And I'm like, I'm trying. So, I've tried. It's just that there's so much detail in what I do that I just can't. And I'll say to them, listen, if you like the picture, and I do video too, I get down and do all that. And I said, listen, if you like it now, when you see it, you're going to be blown away. And that's all I can tell them. And, because I've tried, I don't care. And I keep upgrading my phone. I think I got a 16 and it doesn't matter. But that's all I can tell them. I just need to switch over to get an Android. That's what I need to do. But I've been on iPhone for so long, I don't know if I could do it. So
Yeah, I think you should stick with me, Apple. But
yeah, I've been with Apple since I think the three or the
yeah,
two. So I've been with Apple for a long time. I'm a diehard Apple. When people give me an Android, I'm like,
I know everybody's like, oh, I don't want to touch it.
what is this strange thing? So
So for it seems like from what you're saying, like an event like the PCA trade show or TPE or events like that where you get to put your product in front of someone and sit there and talk to them, or go out to one of their, evening events and you're just using your product and it's a conversation starter. Like those are your big opportunities.
anytime someone can see my product, my product portfolio is amazing. It's a digital catalog. It's not that they like it when they see it, but the difference between the catalog and seeing it in person, I've just seen people go, wow, it's just that. So I'm excited about going to, and I've been to TPE and I've been to PCA. It's just, I can't replicate it. And
Hmm.
maybe it's my excitement explaining it to them, but they just love it. So I'm excited about going. I'm excited about the reaction. I'm going to be giving some pokers away and seeing their reaction when they see them, and filming it. I don't know
I was
how
about to
it's
say,
going to
yeah, I
come
was
out.
like to say you need to make sure you're filming it and get like on-site testimonials because that will go a
I
long
am
way.
going to be doing some of that. So my marketing person, advised me to do some of that. It's my birthday, April 17th.
Okay, so you'll be
Yeah.
like the opening day of when we do all the seminars at PCA. That will be your special day.
I have never worked on my birthday, and I kind of was on the fence about going to PCA on my birthday. But then somebody said, well, we party at PCA too. So I said, okay, well, I'll make an exception. New Orleans, they're going to get their party on. So
Yeah, and this year, I mean, not to get into too much PCA talk, but there are like two parts of the party. So there is after all the fun seminars during the day Friday, then there's the opening reception, which happens at the park where it was last year for those people who went. And then there's a part two of the party this year that happens at the warehouse that's formerly known as the Sugar Mill. So nearby two things. So it goes from like 5-ish till like 9 at night, and then we have the after hours events. So you'll get your party on.
yeah, I'll be bringing in I'm a huge birthday person. So I was kind of like, that's why I didn't go last year, because it was on my birthday. And I was like, I don't want to be at PCA on my
Hmm.
birthday. So, but people were like, you should go. You haven't been to, I went to the one in Vegas, which Vegas is obviously, party 24/7, no matter what you're doing. But I said this was the last year in New Orleans. So let me go and check it out. And I haven't seen people in a while. So I don't want people to think I'm out of the game, because I'm not that. I'm definitely in the game and going down there to see what's going on, PCA.
So what? You, I think that's a good question to ask. Like, what are you looking forward to with the trade show? Like, what's your goal with the trade show? Like, is it to get into more retailers? Is it to just get more people, period, to to get some more media attention? Like, what do you want to come out of the trade show having accomplished?
I would say there's three things. I would say I have some media interviews. So that's one thing that I want to do. I want to have some brand awareness. I haven't been to PCA in a couple of years, and so I want everybody to know that I'm still, very much involved in, accessories. I feel like I'm a spokesperson for cigar accessories, and I want to meet with distributors and retailers and just people in general who are looking for pokers, because I do sell to individuals. I'm on Amazon, I'm on Etsy, eBay, and my Shopify website. So I won't sell on the floor, obviously, because I don't do that, but I will, if they happen to be walking by at the time I'm giving away a poker, then they can get one, or they can order one on one of my platforms.
Cool. Well, um, I'm just thinking about. I was trying to think if there's any tips I can offer that you don't know, but I think your marketing person has gotten you ready for this trade show. But I think that'll be interesting just to be in that environment where everyone who's on a trade show floor is pretty much a potential customer. It's not, one of those events where you might be out and somebody's like, "Oh no, I don't smoke cigars." It's like you're gonna be
Oh, I don't know too many people coming to this event that don't smoke.
Exactly.
I have my eyes on a couple of people who have booths that I would love to meet. So there's a couple that I'm just like going to be like at their booth, like, I've been waiting to meet you. So I've looked at the map, which I love the app that has, who's where, PCAs, they've been in the game for a long time. They know how to run a convention. So there's no question about, who's going to be there. And then I think for me, because, I've been a PCA, it's really about, sometimes you meet more people. I meet more people at the networking at night. To me, it's when you're out at these, I can't speak for New Orleans because I've never been, but when I was in Vegas, I met more people at the bar downstairs between the Palazzo and what's the other one, the Venetian, that bar down there. That's where I met a lot of people, a lot of people at that bar. So that's, to me, because, when you're working a booth, you're really meeting the people that are coming by the booth. And I think that because PCA has so many people, you want to meet a lot of people that may not be coming to the booth. And there are a lot of times they're all over, the space is so big. So I think that's where everybody's kind of relaxed. They've worked their 14-hour days. You know what I mean? And so you're just really talking about it. And all of a sudden you're talking to somebody you've been trying to meet all day. You're like, oh my God, that's so-and-so, so-and-so. So that's what I'm really looking forward to.
So obviously you've been in the game for a long time. And so I'm always interested with people like you. How do you continue to remain enthusiastic about what you're doing without feeling burned out or bored with, making these pokers and the hustle of having to sell it and market it? How do you keep happy?
Well, I mean, I think, it has changed for me. So when I first started, I was selling only to individuals. I would make, you say, hey, I want a poker that has a breast cancer thing, or I want a poker because I'm riding a motorcycle, or, so I did only custom, I did individual, I did custom early on. Like when I first started, I was doing custom. As soon as people were like, oh, can you do this? Can you do that? So that was like, stage one. Then I did that for several years before I started doing, it was probably about a year and a half before I got my first retail place, which was a humidor in Snellville. So that was a long journey because people told me no a lot. I was like, man, if I could just get one, So when I got one, it just kind of, I got a lot more. And so it changes for me. So then it was just doing retails. And then it was when I got on Amazon, I got admitted into the Black Accelerator program. So for me, it's always been something different. So there is not a lot of people selling pokers on Amazon. So I think for me, it's always been something different. It was like selling the individual, getting on the accelerator program in Amazon, getting on Etsy, getting on eBay. So it was all of that. Then it was, doing, I got into burn. It was, doing, this, if I get a distributor, it'll be that. So to me, it's always set myself for different challenges. It's never really been the same for me. I'm hosting more events. I'm hosting an event at Burn. So I really was never hosting events. That was never something I was doing. I was more just kind of behind the scenes doing pokers, and now I'm doing this. So I feel like I'm always doing something different. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm doing that. Okay, that sounds good. And I'm an Aries, I'm a fire sign. I'm courageous. So I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do that. So I don't get bored because I create opportunities, and I love having fun, and I love meeting people. And who doesn't have fun but cigar people smoking and drinking all day long? So not all the time, but
well, a good portion of the day.
Right. And then, when I see somebody with one of my pokers, it blows my mind. I'm like, oh my God, that's what I'm talking, so that's really kind of cool. Or somebody come up to you and say, hey, because you don't ever think, like when I first started, I didn't really think about seeing my pokers out in the world. You don't really think you're going to see them because you just don't even think like that. And when you see one, you're like, oh my God, that's one of mine. And then you see more, especially in Atlanta, because we just have so many lounges here. you just see them, and it gets weirder and weirder because you're seeing your product and you're like, oh my God, they're using it, they're liking it. It's a good feeling, but it's strange. You know what I mean? It's just weird because you just don't think about that. I mean, you're so busy in making them. You're like, oh, I'm making one and making one. And then you're like, or somebody goes, I have one of your pokers. I have one of your bracelets. And you're like, oh, wow. It's just, you're just busy in the doing, not the 360 experience that somebody's got it and loves it. You just have to step back and say, thank God that people appreciate it, because it's a big deal, because it came from an idea. One day I went to, a Herfest in Miami. And I said, wouldn't it be great to have a box where, you have all this stuff for women, for their hair and, Motrin in the morning and all this stuff for women, and have a poker in it. And I didn't know how to make it. My brother's like, oh yeah, you can do it. I'm like, I don't even know how to do that. He's like, you're creative. You can make a poker. I said, I'm glad you feel like I can, because I don't even know what I'm doing. So it's just one of those things where you take an idea and then 6 years later, I had awards, which may not mean anything. It's not the actual award. It's the fact that people trusted you enough to think that you should be honored or nominated. It's not the physical award. It's just people knowing enough to know who you are, to say, Robin cared enough about her product. And that's what it really means to me. So, it's a big deal to come up with something out of your head and actually have it manifest. That's pretty cool.
It's like being seen and being recognized. It's just, it's a good boost. like sometimes that's all you really want, is just to be like recognized.
Yeah, I mean, and especially in markets like, Houston and Atlanta. I mean, those are the, power markets as far as I'm concerned. Not saying that I don't want to win in Charleston. Shout out to Charleston. But, because it's one of those things, and especially that early in my career. I think when I won Houston, I had probably been in business maybe 2 years. So that was really a big deal. I was like, who, me? So it was a big deal, because, just having people acknowledge that you're working hard. Because sometimes you're working and you don't even know people are always watching. Like you were doing your thing, and then, now you're big shot at PCA. So
I wouldn't say big shot, but I'm over here. Yay.
Well, I remember, when I don't know if you were at PCA when I was talking to you before. I don't think, were you at PCA then?
I don't think so. I just came in 2023.
No, because I think I sent you a note and said, hey, congratulations. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So what is it, you've made the pokers, you make bracelets. Do you have any aspirations to expand your product line, or are you just going to focus on those two things?
I want to be an accessory line. So I have magnetic golf cigar holders that attach to your golf cart. I make necklaces. So I want to have an accessory line that has all different types. What else do I have? Flask. Only cool accessories, stuff, not always making everything, because the first couple of years, man, I was grinding hard. I was just like, I'd take some Motrin. My hands were always like using those with the balls, squeeze them and stuff. First 3 years, I was grinding hard, because my hands weren't used to doing that much work, not like that. But now they're used to it. But it was a lot, and I was making pokers 3 o'clock in the morning. First couple of years, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, shipping them out the next day, and I mean it was a lot going on. So I want to try to give myself a little bit of break. Having Flask and doing other things that don't require me to. I looked at watches at one point. But you have to buy so many different kinds, and watches are expensive. So I'm just trying to find some cool things. They don't all have to be cigar related, but I like the magnetic golf cart, cigar holders. Those are kind of fun. So just some different things that people might find interesting.
Oh, cool. Well, at this point in the show, we usually like to kind of wind things down for this part of the interview with some basic questions that we ask every guest. So the first of those questions is, do you have a philosophy that you live or work by that you like to share with us?
A philosophy that I would say my superhero is my papa, and he would say, though things that don't get watched don't get done. So I would say that.
That's a good one. The second question is, I want you to finish the sentence. Robin James is
crazy.
Are we all though a little bit? I think that's
we have to be,
exactly.
I would say crazy and fun. I don't take myself that seriously. I mean, to do cigar pokers is always second. Cigars are first, cigar pokers maybe second or third, because cutters and lighters. Cigar pokers maybe fourth or fifth. I'm not sure where they are in the spectrum. I don't take myself too seriously. I really don't. I mean, I think that life is so short, and you can't just get wound. I guess my brother says it the best. Everything can't be an emergency. Everything can't be critical.
Right.
I don't know sometimes it feels that way in business, because everything's got to be done today and done like that. But I feel like I like to laugh and joke, because it takes away the stress of some of the things that are competing priorities. You have a lot of competing priorities in what you do. And all people who are, just your day-to-day life is, April's really tough, because you got tax season and you got all this, Easter and all these other things that are happening all at the same time. But I think for me, I just like to have a good time. When you meet my friends, they're like, Robin's always joking and laughing, and you have to, because if not, you'll go crazy with life. Life's tough. So I would say crazy and fun, and I can't always be, but I try to be when life, sometimes when things are going, I just burst out laughing, because it's just all you can do.
It's a good pressure releaser.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Well, I want you to let the audience know what website they should follow, what social media. For those who are not watching, they may be just listening to this. Give them the full rundown on how they can get in touch with you and keep up with what you're doing and what you're making.
Everything is easy. Everything is Blue Smoke ATL for everything. Websites, Instagram, Facebook. That was one thing I learned from my mentor. Keep it easy. Blue Smoke ATL for everything. For Facebook, everything that you can think of. It's Blue Smoke ATL for everything, every platform I'm on. What I'm making, it just depends on. I get inspiration from movies, inspiration from photography, inspiration from just people talking. Can you do this? I'll try anything once. And so, I just saw a gas mask and I thought, this is one of my top sellers, which I didn't think it would be. So somebody was telling me something about, can I do something for the military and first responders? That was a call I was on earlier today. So I said, well, I'll look into that. So, people can say stuff, and it's really about finding the right piece that represents that. Because, my family's military, my brother's Navy, I've talked about him. My other brother who passed away, he was a Marine. And then my dad's Army, my uncle's time Army brat. I lived all over the world. I went to 4 different junior highs, 4 different elementaries, and 4 different high schools. So I'm a huge Army brat. So I, might get an idea from anyone. Somebody says, can you do this? I said, well, let me see. So, I get inspiration from anywhere. But you can find me at Blue Smoke ATL. And I'm open to suggestions. But, I'm not going to just make something. You're going to have to pay for it.
And people will be able to find you at this year's PCA trade show as well.
You said what now?
I said people are going to be able to find you at this year's PCA
yes,
trade.
They will be able to find me. I do not have a booth, but you can find me in blue. I'll be in all blue. That's for sure. Yep.
Well, I want to thank you for coming back onto the show. Like I said, it was nice catching up with you after 4 years and seeing that things are still going. It's always nice in the industry to see that people manage to stick around for more than a year. So 4 years and you're still growing your business is awesome.
Well, distributors, I'm looking for you. Yes. You can run, but you can't hide.
Well, there should be plenty of them at PCA trade show. So hopefully
No,
you'll.
they are. I saw the app. So yeah, they're
Cool.
definitely out there. I'm just joking, but yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, sit tight because we have a couple more things to film before we're done for tonight. But I want to thank everyone for listening and watching. And if you missed any of this episode and you want to watch any of this episode or the past episodes of Deep Cuts Live, you can do so at youtube.com/Deep Cuts Live. If you're listening to this on any of the podcasting platforms, be sure to hit the follow button, hit the like button, leave a comment. I always tell people, even if the comments are negative, any feedback is good feedback. So good, bad, leave a comment, and stay tuned for even more stuff from Deep Cuts Live. But thank you, Robin, for coming on. Hopefully we'll have to have you back on, hopefully before 4 years. So
Right. Exactly.
so sit tight so we can finish up for today. But for everyone else, thank you for watching, and until next time.